Today we're privileged to have Shawn Gorman and Steve Smith as our featured speakers, both from L.L.Bean. Shawn is a family member and the board chair. Steve is the first non-family CEO hired from outside the organization. Their bios are in the seminar materials that you picked up on the way in on pages 2 and 3. We don't believe in long intros here. We know we are very privileged to have these two gentlemen of this caliber. And by the way, if anybody can connect my family tree to the L.L.Bean family tree, I might pay handsomely for that. So at this point, here is Stephen and Shawn. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Dan, and great last name. Steve and I are really happy to be here today to talk with you about L.L.Bean and to share some of the company's 100-plus year of history over 5 generations of family ownership.
And our focus today is going to be on the challenges we faced as a company and how the management team and the family have partnered to evolve our business, ensuring that we remain relevant and competitive while also staying true to the L.L.Bean brand and the long-held values.
And we'll tell that story through 2 important change initiatives at our company in our recent history and share how our long-awaited decision to implement governance about 7 years ago has paved the way for better decision-making, transparency, and ultimately more successful business outcomes. For our first example, we'll speak to the process we used to hire and onboard L.L.Bean's most recent CEO in 2015, who, spoiler alert, is right here next to me. Turned out to be Steve, the company's first outsider CEO.
And hopefully I wasn't hired just because I was tall, like Shawn. So, although it definitely helps to see eye to eye. So then we're going to dive much more deeply into how Shawn and I, with the family and the board and the management team, identified and implemented our largest change agenda in the company history. And we did all of that to improve the core health of our business, to address a number of outdated policies and programs that were getting in the way of our growth, and then to re-energize the brand to make sure that we could expand our reach and our relevance to future customers.
And following our remarks, we look forward to taking any questions you might have for us. Generally, when we speak, people have a question. I'm 6'8", Steve is 6'6". So let's begin with some company history, because to understand L.L.Bean, it's important to understand how and why our company was founded. The year was 1912, and at the age of 40, my great-grandfather, L.L., who was an avid hunter and outdoorsman, needed to solve a problem: how to hunt all day in the damp Maine woods without getting his feet cold and wet. His solution was pretty simple: stitch some leather uppers to the soles of rubber work boots, waterproof bottoms keeping your feet dry, while the laced uppers had the fit and comfort of a leather boot. L.L. then mailed out some flyers to fellow hunters promoting his revolutionary Maine hunting shoe. The brochure read, "We guarantee them to give perfect satisfaction in every way." Well, unfortunately, 90 of the first 100 pairs sold were returned because the rubber bottoms separated from the leather tops. But L.L. kept his word. He refunded the purchase price, he fixed the design flaw, and he mailed out more flyers. And this was the beginning of L.L.Bean. In the early years, thanks to word of mouth and his famous catalogs, L.L.'s small company grew rather quickly. By 1937, sales had reached the $1 million mark. However, by the 1960s, sales had stalled at around $2 million. The company that had once grown at a very fast pace had begun to plateau. And at this point, L.L. was approaching 90 years of age and was fairly reluctant to change the business and wasn't terribly concerned about the state of the business. In fact, he once challenged the need to grow by saying, "I already eat 3 square meals a day. Why would I need a 4th?" And while he might have made that remark in jest, a reluctance to evolve the business is fairly common for owners as we age, and this can put a business at risk. This was the case for L.L.Bean, first towards the end of L.L.'s life, and then again more recently, which I'll talk about in a moment. With respect to our first leadership transition, you might say we got lucky. Despite no succession planning, after L.L. passed away, excuse me, his grandson, Leon Gorman, took over as president at the age of 32. Well, there's nothing unusual about a grandson of a company's founder taking over a business. What is unique is how Leon came to work in the business in the first place. He was there not because LL asked him to be there, but rather because Leon had just gotten out of the Navy, and he went to his college advisor at Bowdoin and said, "What should I do for work?" And his advisor asked him to go talk to his grandfather down the road and get a job, and he did, which was fortunate for us because he became that president after LL passed. And with Leon at the helm, not only did the company go on, it flourished. In fact, Leon successfully led the company for more than 40 years, instituting many of the changes that his grandfather didn't have much interest in pursuing, transforming L.L.Bean into a contemporary world-class organization. And just so you know, LL's 3 square meals comment was directed at Leon.
So today, L.L.Bean remains a privately held, family-owned business, still headquartered in Freeport, Maine. We have over 5,000 year-round employees, and that number doubles to just shy of 10,000 employees through the peak holiday season. Our net revenue for 2018 was $1.6 billion. We strive to be the world's best outdoor retailer by selling problem-solving, innovative products of superior quality, and they're designed to make it easier for families and friends to spend time together outside. And LL's main hunting shoe, which is now more well-known as the Bean Boot, remains our most iconic and popular product, and we're on track to produce around 600,000 pairs of those boots right in Brunswick, Maine, still 100% American-made. There are lots of other qualities that we believe separate L.L.Bean apart from others, and so we have a fantastic workplace culture with one of the lowest turnover rates in the retail industry. We're a values-driven organization. We believe in living by a set of core values, and those core values are respect, service, integrity, perseverance, our outdoors heritage, and a safe and healthy living. And as a values-based company, we're proud to operate under a very important stakeholder philosophy that was created originally by the family. And this means that we believe that our success as an enterprise cannot be defined purely by our financial results, but rather how well we meet the objectives of all of our stakeholders. And for us, those stakeholders are our customers, our employees, our shareholders, our vendors, our local communities, and the natural environment. We're also especially known for our day in and day out commitment to providing world-class customer service. We were recently recognized by Newsweek. We marked #1 in customer service for retailers, beating Amazon for a 3rd year in a row. And of course, at the heart of L.L.Bean is our central philosophy, that there are significant physical and spiritual benefits to spending time in the outdoors.
So that's a high-level view of L.L.Bean's history as well as our business today, including our first leadership transition from LL to Leon. Before we dive into our change agenda, we want to set a little context around L.L.Bean's governance story, including how we came to realize it was needed and the model we chose to implement. If any of you are familiar with John Ward's books about family business, you've seen this graphic before. It's what he refers to as the 3 stages of family ownership, beginning with the first generation and the controlling owner. In the second generation, you move into what is the sibling partnership, and then for 3rd generations and beyond, you evolve to operate as a cousins consortium. In our case, although we were approaching our 100th anniversary and the family had expanded to 5 generations, we were still functioning in a controlling owner stage. This does make sense for us because when you consider that LL had worked in the business until he was 94 years old, and then Leon served as CEO and then chairman of the board for over 4 decades, it seems to make sense. In Leon's case, although some of his brothers and cousins worked in the business or served on the board, no one other than Leon was really involved in the day-to-day management, which was frankly what he preferred. So for many years, this worked really well. The company was profitable. Employees were getting annual bonuses, owners were receiving quarterly dividends, so there was little focus on succession planning, family development, or governance. I think the feeling was if the business is good, the family is good. But as our family grew, in the 4th generation, which I'm a part of, entered the business and began to serve in the company and on the board, we wanted more of a voice in the company that we owned. And externally, things were starting to change as well. The retail environment was really experiencing some dramatic shifts with the beginning of e-commerce, the rise of Amazon, and changing consumer trends that were making it harder and more expensive for L.L.Bean to compete. The company was still profitable, but we weren't seeing the kind of annual growth that we were used to. And in addition, our product assortment was expanding into more and more casual apparel. Over time, L.L.Bean had become less about the outdoors and maybe a little bit more about khakis and dress shirts. And as an outdoor brand, that was becoming a big concern for us family members. As a matter of fact, this period of our ownership history represents my own 3 square meals, don't need a fourth moment. My generation had long come of age, but there was still no plan or path for us to shape family development, influence strategy, or focus on succession planning. It took a long time between when we first started to raise these concerns when governance became a reality. It's about a decade to be precise. But I'm pleased to say that our perseverance eventually prevailed. In 2011, a board resolution was passed to identify and implement a governance model that would work for the next chapter in L.L.Bean's history. The first step and one of the most critical pieces of work was to perform a continuity audit, a comprehensive visioning process that ensures that the ownership group is aligned on key issues, including the mission and purpose of the business and the level of commitment to remaining family-owned. With respect to governance and leadership planning, it's critical you know where the ownership group stands on these very fundamental issues. Fortunately, our family was completely aligned. Our family values, integrity, respect, service, and the company's values are one and the same. Also in a family-owned company, legacy is important. People before you have paved the way, and you've become stewards of the brand and the company, something you don't take lightly. For us, remaining family-owned ensured that we could maintain and continue to build upon the legacy of my great-grandfather and then my uncle, Leon, while creating pathways for incoming generations to make their own marks on the company one day. We implemented our governance model in 2012 and chose a structure that we felt would set L.L.Bean up for the next 100 years of success, notably a design that would officially move us from a controlling owner to a cousins consortium. We believe this shift would provide much needed role clarity. It would create greater dialogue between the family, the board, and the management team, and allow us as owners to focus on preparing our incoming generations to lead the business. Implementing governance also meant making a lot of changes to our existing structure, including the makeup and the composition of our board of directors. For generations, L.L.Bean operated with a fairly passive board of directors made up entirely of family owners that served as kind of a rubber stamp for management's decisions. Through governance, we transitioned to a smaller, more engaged board with 6 family members, 3 independent directors, and our CEO. We also created a new family council for all owners to serve on. The council is designed to cultivate ideas and generate common points of view as a family. This change required a big leap of faith for all of us, as the family council is very different from serving on the board. However, we quickly found it was actually a better forum for the family to engage in the business and provide input for our future directions. And it's a good thing we implemented governance when we did, because in a short span of time, we experienced 2 significant leadership changes. First, as part of our governance implementation, Leon had decided to retire, and the board had voted me to succeed him as chairman in 2 years. However, about a month after that decision, Leon decided to accelerate the transition, and I was named chairman in the spring of 2013. And a year after that, our former CEO had his own plans to retire, and I, as L.L.Bean's chairman, would now have the opportunity to lead the search process for L.L.Bean, next CEO. I saw this as a really important inflection point to address our growing business challenges and direct the future of L.L.Bean. One of the biggest challenges facing the company and our business was that sales were leveling off as fixed costs were increasing. L.L.Bean was still profitable, but there were red flags. We had done a good job of marketing products to a loyal set of core customers, but we weren't reaching new customers across different demographics and geographics. And again, our product assortment was more about casual apparel and less about products and gear to enjoy the outdoors, which is our mission. Culturally, our organization needed to make some shifts as well. We had become risk-averse, and decision-making was too top-down. This was impacting our ability to respond quickly to market changes. We also wanted more innovation, transparency, and collaboration. And we had a growing G&A problem. As a stakeholder organization with a lot of legacy programs and benefits, our cost structure was significantly out of line with our competitors. Operating under a stakeholder model means we strive to make decisions for the good of all stakeholders, our customers, employees, communities, shareholders, vendors, and the environment. However, you can only realize that objective if the company at the center of the model is healthy, and we need to be healthy for the long term. So hiring a new CEO offered a critical opportunity to bring on a leader who could actively evolve L.L.Bean and course correct on these issues. So we developed a CEO selection team led by me, one of our independent directors, and our head of human resources. This offered a well-rounded combination of perspectives as we developed our hiring criteria. It was a given that we needed technical expertise in the CEO role, someone who, with a deep knowledge of retail, merchandising, marketing, but even more important was cultural fit, and I'm sure you can all agree with that. L.L.Bean has a strong, values-driven stakeholder culture, which we love, but it's not for everyone. When we make a hiring mistake, which fortunately is rare, it's something akin to organ rejection. You find out pretty quickly that that person doesn't belong, and that it's not going to work. So not only did we need someone who would fit within our culture, our new CEO also needed to be able to help evolve our culture. The irony is that we had every intention of hiring a CEO from within. After all, we'd never had a CEO from outside before, and then we met Steve.
Yes, thanks. So I was working for Walmart International, a fairly large family-owned business as well. And I was between expat assignments, so I was moving from northern England to Shanghai and actually commuting between both those two cities and countries. And I had been made aware of the possible Bean leadership transition through some extraordinary personal circumstances, which is a separate story. But I was pleasantly surprised when Russell Reynolds London connected me with the Russell Reynolds San Francisco office and said that the L.L.Bean CEO search was underway, and so I threw my hat in the ring. Russell Reynolds was very transparent from the beginning that there were very strong internal candidates, and the final choice would likely be an internal hire. So I focused on simply presenting my genuine self, my experiences, my values at every interview, knowing that if I wasn't picked, at least I had presented the best me. And then, obviously, as you can see, I kept getting called back for more interviews. And it was flattering and exciting for sure, and also a massive logistical nightmare trying to get from Maine to Maine from China or from England for about 4 days every month for about 5 months. But aside from that hurdle, it was an amazing process. And whether I'd gotten the job or not, it was first class. It was really intense and really comprehensive process. And through it all, I spent dozens of hours with Russell Reynolds, and I met almost every family member, including several times with Shawn. And deeply impactful for me then, and then even more impactfully after I had started, I had the opportunity to meet Leon a few weeks before he passed away in the fall of 2015. And with each subsequent conversation, I came to understand what the board, the family, Shawn, and the business were looking for, and I felt confident in my ability to be able to deliver on that mandate. And I also knew I had the right work experiences, the right cultural agility, and the right values and style to help drive and evolve the brand and the business and the culture. So I was thrilled to receive the job offer in September 2015, and I officially joined the company in January of 2016. I'm in my 4th year, so if organ rejection was going to occur, it should have occurred already, so that's good. And I consider myself really fortunate to be CEO of a company that, with values that align so strongly with my own, and to have the opportunity to work really closely with Shawn and the family. I continue to feel great deference and gratitude to the family for bringing me on as a steward of this amazing family-owned business and brand, and to help in the next chapter for the company's history. Shawn and I have a unique and very productive relationship. And together we run the business. So Shawn is the executive chair, and those words matter quite a bit. That means he's part of the executive team. He's in the office every day, and we work together leading the business. Our change agenda impacts many long-held family positions, and Shawn is a critical connection between management and the board and the family. And together we plan board meeting agendas, company internal communications, PR strategy, and major change agenda components. And this partnership has been especially important because, as Shawn noted, the business has been facing significant challenges that needed to be addressed starting in 2016. And we would need to work together with the board and the family support to develop and exercise a strategy to reposition L.L.Bean for long-term sustainable success and growth. Our immediate business and organizational challenges were to address flat sales, diminishing relevance in the marketplace, and a very high fixed cost structure, which, as Shawn noted earlier, was built on outdated policies and practices that weren't keeping up with today's retail environment. Simply put, we needed to evolve as a business to position the company for future growth and for the next 100 years. So Shawn, with the management team, and I kicked off in 2016 by identifying opportunities for L.L.Bean to expand our brand relevance and get back to growing sales. As work got underway, we conducted thorough cost structure review. We realized we couldn't jump right into growing sales. We needed fuel for growth, and we also needed some financial resiliency to make sure that we were able to weather the clear retail storms that are around us. So first, we decided to tackle margin and G&A, and those high fixed costs were an enormous burden on the company and the overall performance of the business. As a result, we identified several key foundational changes that we needed to make as a company to move forward. And so began a 3-year process in very close partnership with the board of directors and the family, led by Shawn and me, to introduce what would become the most comprehensive change agenda in L.L.Bean's history. One that would target L.L.Bean's business model challenges while recommitting to the company's outdoor heritage and preserving our core values. And in year one, which was 2016, we focused on identifying the key elements of our change agenda. As a management team, we did extensive research and analysis to develop recommendations. These recommendations were then presented to the family and the board for input and approval. We executed that change agenda in year two, which was 2017, working very closely with the family to guide the timing and the communications rollout. And then we worked to stabilize the business in year three, which was 2018, just our past fiscal year. And through that change agenda, we improved our core health of the business by adjusting our benefits offering. Notably, we froze our pension plan, and then we used some of those savings to enhance our 401k program and add other important employee benefits. We changed L.L.Bean's legendary return policy, famously generous, which is being abused by a growing number of people to enormous cost to the company. And we simultaneously developed a new brand positioning to ensure that we are relevant and staying true to our outdoor heritage.
And each of these changes tethered back to the family long history and legacy of L.L.Bean. The pension program was introduced by Leon. The return policy dated back to L.L. himself and was deeply woven into our company's history and DNA. And of course, nothing could be more tied to the integrity of L.L.Bean than determining what we stand for as a brand. So at every step of our change agenda, it was critical that the family had the opportunity to fully understand the changes and to establish a unified point of view.
So we'll take you through three of these components. So the first one we're going to dive into is our pension change. One of L.L.Bean's biggest expenses was tied to our 40-year-old pension plan. And as you may know, very few employers still have a pension, largely because they're so market volatile and introduce a great deal of financial uncertainty and risk to the company's bottom line. And sure enough, a comprehensive review of our retirement offerings confirmed that we were out of line with the industry and with the market. We had a pension and we had a very generous 401k employer match program as well. And our recommendation as a management team was to freeze a pension while maintaining a robust retirement program through further enhancement to our 401k. We also executed a voluntary retirement program. And all of this we knew was going to be a very big change for our employees as well as for the company's family owners.
While not all business decisions need family input and involvement, changes as big as freezing the company's pension plan certainly did. It was also critical that the family, the board, and the management team were aligned on our path forward. A big part of creating the alignment was having sufficient time and space to keep the family and the board informed throughout, especially recommendations as they were being made. Is my mic cutting out? No, okay, just me. Okay, good. This allowed the family council to weigh in periodically and to shape the eventual outcome, which was very important because Many of us live in the same communities as our employees, and we often interact with them outside of the business. When we announced the benefits change in 2017, the rollout went extremely well. In fact, when family members did run into employees out in the community, many actually thanked us for our transparency, our respect, and the commitment to the stakeholder philosophy. They understood. From an ownership perspective, it's a process that we now refer to as done with versus done to decision making. And not only did this collaborative approach produce a better outcome, it also served as the blueprint for how management, board, and family would partner to solve the challenges ahead.
And that blueprint was absolutely critical, as our next major change initiative was to address L.L.Bean's long-term return policy. The policy had always been a 100% satisfaction guarantee since LL founded the company. But over time, a growing number of people were interpreting this well beyond its original intent, and some viewed it as a lifetime product replacement program and wanted refunds for heavily worn products that had been used over many, many years. And others sought refunds for products that had been purchased through third-party resellers like eBay and yard sales. And the cost was getting, seriously. There are amazing stories that we've told of people walking into our stores with the leg of a chair saying, "I'm not satisfied with this," and we would replace that chair. So incredibly generous. But the cost was absolutely unsustainable. So from 2012 to 2017, we lost $250 million on returned items that we classify as destroy quality. Those are products that have no useful life. They can't even be donated to a charity or sold through the employee store. So the data was incredibly clear that we had to address that growing abuse by adding clarity to our policy. We had an outstanding internal project team that did extensive research into the potential impacts, the financial benefits of changing this return policy. And we developed numerous replacement options to consider. We conducted deep qualitative and quantitative research, and we engaged the family and the board in unique and innovative ways to vet and develop the final recommendations for our policy change.
As a family, we took making a change like this very seriously. We had to be assured that the original intent of LL's guarantee would be upheld in the end. I will also say, having worked in the business for more than 25 years, I knew we had to make this change for the long-term health of the business. So over a 2-year period, the Family Council reviewed all recommendations as they were developed, and like the pension change, we had the chance to reflect, weigh in, and provide input all along the way. Where we landed is a policy that added clarity, reduced ambiguity, and honored the original intent of LL's guarantee. In early 2018, I wrote a letter to customers informing them that they will now have 1 year to return a product they are not satisfied with, and after 1 year, we'll work with our customers to reach a fair solution if a product is defective in any way. Within hours of the announcement, we received an overwhelmingly positive response from both consumers and the media, and we still get good feedback today. It was really gratifying to receive that kind of support we did from the press and customers alike, and it's testament to how our partnership drove a better business outcome.
And lastly, this brings us to our efforts to evolve the L.L.Bean brand positioning and to ensure that we stay relevant in a highly competitive retail and outdoor sports environment. We embarked on a thorough discovery approach around cultural trends, competitors, and consumers. Our qualitative and quantitative research helped to identify L.L.Bean's most promising target audience, a group that represents the biggest business opportunity for us based on customer spend, based on their product preferences, and their brand preferences as well. That group we identified as the outdoor family enthusiast, and these are customers who value purposeful products that enable shared experiences and with family and friends in the outdoors. And these defining attributes gave us a clear roadmap for L.L.Bean's new and inclusive brand positioning, made for the shared joy of the outdoors. And the words matter. Made for is we manufacture quality merchandise and products that we stand behind as a company, and all of our products are made with a purpose. We're not in it for fashion. Shared joy represents our belief that the best moments in the outdoors are those that are shared with family and friends, which is very different from other outdoor companies in our industry that are fond of showing ice in a beard and blood on a shin and someone hanging off of a cliff. And the outdoors reflects that the outside is inside everything that we make. And this goes straight back to our original heritage as an outdoor business. In turn, that brand positioning has informed all components of our business strategy. So that includes our product assortment strategies, our charitable giving strategies, as well as our creative expression. And the launch of the new Be an Outsider campaign, which was obviously a fun play on the word with the be and. And I think we have a video to play. Maybe that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Great. There it is. There's the fun wordplay. So it's year 2 of our campaign. 2018 was year 2 of our campaign, and already proven to resonate really clearly with the outdoor family enthusiasts, and we'll share a little bit of the details of how we performed the past year. We've been really successful in attracting new customers to our brand.
Perhaps the most critical area for owner involvement is the company's brand and brand positioning. So once again, we engaged the family from the very beginning on L.L.Bean's brand work. Before there was an official brand project under Steve's guidance, the Family Council participated in a series of visioning exercises, I mentioned as part of the continuity audit. Not unlike the continuity audit that we had done a few years ago, we expanded on this visioning exercise, and this work helped us to establish that shared point of view about the L.L.Bean brand, including where we saw our strengths, things to maintain, and our opportunities, things to explore. So when the brand team formed a year later, that information was shared with them and served as the touchstone throughout the project. The team also kept the family informed along the way via regular updates to the Family Council and on our quarterly working sessions with the Board of Directors. I firmly believe that governance, again, improved our final outcome, and we created a brand positioning that is a new take of what we've always stood for, not only as a company, but as a family, and that's just helping to get people outside.
So as I mentioned, if you're curious about sort of how this is all working for us, we recently just closed our books on fiscal 2018, the end of February, where we really focused on stabilizing our business. And first and foremost, I'd say I'm still here, so we've done okay through that change agenda. I serve at the pleasure of the family and the board. Also pleased to share that it was a really good year for L.L.Bean. With the reduction in fixed G&A costs and the improvement in our return rate, we saw a dramatic improvement in the profitability and the health of our business for all of our stakeholders. And meanwhile, this past holiday season was one of the best in recent memory. We broke internal records for new buyer growth, including customers from outside of our New England backyard.
And getting the core business healthy allows us to satisfy the needs of our stakeholders, which is what it's all about. So, for example, in 2018, we invested an additional $45 million in employees across a discretionary bonus and additional benefit enhancements. And this simply wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't gone through the change agenda.
And it also allows us to reinvest in our business and turn our attention back to pursuing growth. And in our most recent board and family council meetings in December and in March, the conversation has now turned to our next 3-year change agenda, which is completely focused on growing our domestic and our international businesses while we continue to build on the progress that we made in the past few years on our cost structure.
So that's a look at the family's decision to implement governance that laid the groundwork that enabled new, strong partnerships between management and the family. And this has helped us to collaboratively address significant challenges and evolve L.L.Bean as a business and a brand.
And it's been a great journey so far. We've enjoyed sharing our perspective with you today on how a transparent and productive relationship between the executive chair, an outside CEO, and family ownership can reshape the business for future growth and for success. Thanks again for the time this morning. And I think Shawn and I are going to move to the middle chairs and take questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
They said they would be done by 9 o'clock. They did a very good job.
Did we? All right. Thank you.
Could we ask the hotel staff to come and set the podiums off the stage? That would help us if we could do that. And Amy or my staff, do we have some questions, I hope, from the audience? Otherwise, I guess Kevin and I will make up a few while we're waiting for that to happen. So, Kevin, do you want to go first?
Well, there was a question, is there going to be an Oprah moment? you know, we've got a blue Oxford for you.
We didn't bring any
Sa-
beans.
Sadly,
All right,
no.
yeah, all right, good. Talk about the family members that want a job, family members that might be considered rebels. I'm assuming you all have a process to divert them away from the governance committees of the company. How does that go, and how in the world have you been able to maintain this family culture for that many years?
I would say that fortunately we don't have too many rebels, and our goal isn't to divert anyone away from governance. It's to share the importance of governance, and that you might be an individual, but you're also you're connected to something larger. So your actions reflect on that larger group. So education is really critical and important. So rather than avoidance and pushing people away, we'd probably rather have them come in and help them understand the role they play and ensure that they play it well. And if not, we have code of conduct and code of ethics that as family owners we abide by, that we put in place to ensure that I wouldn't say ramifications if you don't play nice, but that it makes it difficult and obvious that you didn't play nice.
Is family in this context, is it defined as blood relations only?
It is. So we view it a little bit differently. Our family council is just, it's actually an owner's council, and we've thought about changing the name. But we have family gatherings and assemblies that bring in the married-ins and non-owners.
And from an estate perspective, have the attorneys developed mechanisms to keep the stock in the family?
Yes.
For multiple
Yeah.
generations?
We have, yes. So we have policies that we've all signed on to as shareholders to ensure that L.L.Bean has first right of refusal at the current valuation for stocks, just to keep it in the family and maintain S-corp status.
Very good.
So you created a family council a few years ago, and you've had a board for a number of years, but it went from more passive to more engaged. So you have two distinct groups in your governance, family council, and your board. I can understand how the two of those talked a lot during a time of high change and planning, but on an ongoing basis, how do those two bodies communicate, coordinate, and interact?
You want to take it?
I'll take a little bit of it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. So the structure works. We have quarterly board meetings, and those are a 3-day event. And so day one on Wednesday is a family council meeting. And so that's an agenda set by Nate Clark, who is Shawn's cousin. And that is family issues. And if there are business issues, we can be invited in to share a perspective, but it's really all around family communication. That's on Wednesday. On Thursday, then, we have what we call a quarterly business update, which is shareholders plus independent board directors plus management. And we do a full business review, and that is to get all of the owners up to speed on everything that's happening in the business and their ability to address and ask questions of my direct report team, the executive team as well. That's typically on Thursday mornings, and we have typical comp and audit meetings in the afternoon. And then on Friday, we have our straight board meeting, which is all board members. And then the executive team is invited into that board meeting, and they will do different presentations and sharing, and we try to, decision-making occurs in the board meeting. So when we have major things, you may take a topic is discussed in family, it may get previewed with a bit more data in the quarterly business update, and then by the time you get to a vote on something on Friday, everybody now has the same level of learning and understanding through that. And then periodically between board meetings, the family council also meets on their own to address other issues. Typically, it can be governance issues, it can be family issues in general.
I would like for CMA clients to notice he said a 3-day board meeting, so when we say a 3-hour board meeting and we get some pushback, just for context.
Yeah, a 1-day board meeting, but a
No.
3-day event,
Okay.
which is a succession of, and really it's about just getting as many people engaged as possible and people as much space as they need to process information. So, every family is built of a lot of different individuals who process information introverted, extroverted, need to read, need to listen, need to hear. So by having a bunch of different venues, we're able to get everybody up to speed.
Yes, and I do want to underscore, getting everybody on the same page of data certainly helps people come to the same decision point.
Absolutely right.
So I do support
Yeah.
that part of your process.
Yeah, definitely.
Shawn, can you comment on the thinking that went into why the second generation did not end up having a CEO or chairman representative?
Yeah, so we did talk about the first succession being from LL to Leon. That's kind of stated history, but the actual history was that LL had 3 children, my grandmother, and then 2 sons, Carl and Warren Bean. And they worked in the business. Carl actually took over as president when LL passed, but LL was 94, Carl was 67, and Carl passed away 6 months after he took over as CEO. So that's really when the transition came. It was such a brief tenure. It doesn't always
Right.
get caught in our history. But the other piece there is that Carl probably could have had a wonderful career leading the company and putting his mark on the business, but LL didn't want to get out.
Right.
And that's a hard thing. I mean, it's kind of nice, wonderful history that LL stayed in the business until he was 94 years old, but that really doesn't bear repeating. And one of the things we're trying to do in the 4th generation, and I'll try to stay true to this because I don't know if my opinion will change as I get older, but we have to understand when we exit and how do we exit gracefully to allow the next generation to come in. I have a father. My father is still on the board. He'll be 87 in a couple of months, and he has really no interest in removing himself from that board seat. And I have 3 siblings who are looking at that board seat and saying, I might like that someday to put my mark on things. So again, that's the big story for us, is knowing when we get out and when the time is right to gracefully exit the business and pass off leadership control.
So Shawn, do you have a succession process for the executive chair role?
Absolutely not. No. Yeah. We do.
Age 94, right?
It's right. Hopefully 95. No. We do. So we think about it a lot. We look at our governance model and the folks who are in that model every 3 to 5 years. We've vowed to take a look at things. A lot changes in people's lives going forward. So I might have a plan now that could change abruptly due to some unforeseen circumstance. Leon, who was looking to transition in 2 years from the moment he announced it and then quickly accelerated that change, he passed away shortly after I became chairman. I think he identified that he had cancer and said, I don't want to spend the last couple of years of my life doing this. I want to enjoy myself. I'm going to transition quickly. So that changed for him. But we look at it all the time. I mean, the most difficult thing is identifying appropriate succession planning. We're not a large family. I'm a 4th generation member. There are only 10 direct descendants in the 4th generation. And not everyone works in the business. So it's finding the right folks to cultivate and develop to prepare them for that time. Fortunately, we have some good folks waiting in the wings. Leon's daughter, who is one of the vice chairs at the company, works in the business. She's a fabulous merchandiser. She's earning her credibility in the business, making great connections with the people and the employees and other shareholders. And she's about 10 years younger than I am, and it looks like a great opportunity for succession. But after her, we have to keep that going. So yeah, we do look at it very closely.
Do you have terms that you're elected to, or is it
1 year
elected
terms.
until you resign, or?
Or somebody tosses you, yeah.
Okay. Kevin?
Stephen, can you comment on how the Walmart family business experience prepared you for this role?
Yeah, I can give a couple of examples. Walmart is a remarkable organization and one that I'm a huge fan of and is much maligned by people who don't really understand that business. incredibly values-oriented and amazing family ownership. And when I was I'll just relay a story about Rob Walton. It just brings it home as a family-run business. So when I was in China, I was running Sam's Club China, and we were approving new clubs in China. Each one was between a $50 and $80 million investment to build a new club in China. And you'd go through China real estate, then Asia real estate, and then international real estate in your successive presentations. And when you got to the IREC, the International Real Estate Committee meeting, we would be sitting in China on a Cisco conference system with the big screens, whatever, and you're presenting to the International Real Estate Committee, and Rob Walton is sitting in the front row, in the middle, and he is a key decider of that process. And even though it's publicly traded, and even though it's the world's largest organization, you have a descendant of Sam Walton sitting right in the front row, and he is generally one of the first people to ask you questions about your site, about your commitment and your conviction to that real estate investment. And so just recognizing, and when I was at Walmart, it was not a preface to be at L.L.Bean. I didn't know anything about joining L.L.Bean. But it was a fascinating learning of these are family owners, and they care, and this is ultimately their money, their investment, their brand, their business, and everything that we're doing is reflective of them, their culture, their values, their business ethics, and all of that. And so I felt that quite starkly through that International Real Estate Committee process. So obviously coming in then to Bean and interviewing, I understood it, and I understood that it's a deeper passion to the business results and the direction we're taking than just a business transaction.
So there's a question, how do you determine who's on the family council? I think earlier you said you have to be an owner, so it's really maybe an ownership council, but then what do you have to do to become an owner? So how do you get into ownership? How do you get into the family council?
Sure. So ownership, the way we look at it, it's less about ownership and more about direct descendants, so lineal descendant. So there are members of the fifth generation who technically may not be owners, who participate as observers on the family council. We have, our fifth generation ranges in age from about 12 to 32, I think is the range now. And some of them are in the business and great contributors, are not currently owners because that wealth hasn't transferred from parent down to child necessarily. But they are valuable members that we want to start to develop. So we have pathways for the fifth generation to observe, and we actually graduated 2 fifth generation observers to full family council members just last year.
So is there a certain age they have to be, or certain qualifications, or
the qualification,
capabilities?
Yeah, the qualification to be an observer it's just age related. You need to be 18 years of age to participate, and we did that because the family council now is very much like the board was prior to our transition. All the family members were there, and in the quarterly business updates that Steve mentioned, there's an opportunity for family members to sit and observe and hear the issues being discussed in the company with the independent directors, the board of directors, and the management team. And we all recalled being observers on the board of directors when we were in the fourth generation coming up. And it was so valuable to understanding the issues that the company's facing and how governance really works, that we thought it was really more fair to have the fifth gen come in. So the requirements, there's not necessarily a set criteria, but you have to demonstrate a willingness to participate. One of the fifth generation members who was made a full generation had started a fifth generation assembly and kind of was the leader of the fifth generation, and showed that she was taking on a role within governance herself to ready and prep the fifth generation to participate at these family council meetings. And those kinds of actions are viewed by the family very positively, and you kind of eyeball the ones that you know are kind of up-and-comers.
Yes.
I know you were very.
I just want to add one thing
sure.
to that too, because I think it's important just for the audience. It goes both ways as well. So for us as a senior executive team, we also understand the family dynamics, and we understand the fifth generation coming up through observers. So we make sure in the quarterly business update that when we're giving updates, we're giving space for the observers to be able to ask questions and to be able to be engaged in the business. So we recognize too that it's a big deal when you have the 18-year-olds first time coming to a QBU, when observers are moved into the family council, and we try to treat them immediately with the same level of respect that all the other owners have, and to create an engagement with them. And this past March board meeting was absolutely fantastic. We had most of the questions, we were talking about some e-commerce opportunities, and most of the questions came from fifth generation observers of the management team, and that felt like success to us, and that we were getting them engaged and involved in the business. So it's not just the family learning about the business, but it's also the business people learning about the family structure and trying to do the right things with them.
Very good.
So this question would be for both of you. Steve, when you were named as CEO, did you get much pushback from the family members? You wouldn't understand, you're not a Bean, you weren't here when we did that, et cetera. This is the way we always did it. So that's one question. And then Shawn, did you have any casualties on your executive team or board that just couldn't get there about choosing an outside CEO?
So on the first part, no, I didn't get a lot of pushback from the family because, I mean, the interview process went from February to September of 2015, so it's a long process. And I started meeting the family in May, and so May, June, July, August, September, I came into Maine and met with family members, and it was a beautiful process run by Shawn and Hugh and Marie. And I met with all third generation members, in each one of them with one of their children, and so any issues that people had, either with me or questions about me coming from Walmart, coming from outside, were really thoroughly vetted through that process. So I didn't feel a huge amount of pushback, and actually I felt incredibly embraced and warm coming in. And I got Leon's endorsement before he passed away, and that was hugely positive. And when Shawn announced me in the job, he quoted Leon's email about me, which gave me a huge amount of credibility with long-term Bean folks who, if Leon said I was a good guy, then they believed it and trusted it. And I am a good guy.
Right.
I would say it's funny. I'm going to answer the first half of the question you asked to Shawn. Where I had the most pushback was from the executive team, not from the family members. Shawn was really clear on the changes that needed to happen, both culturally as well as business orientation, and that was clear through the interviewing process once I was shared the P&L and the balance sheet where those opportunities were. Coming in, the executive team was rooted and vested in the status quo. And so to answer your question, I came into a very hierarchical, very formal structure. It was the office of the president, and it was a CEO with 4 direct reports. And through that group, just a bit shorthanded, I kept 3, removed 1, promoted 3, and hired 2. So ended up with an executive team that went from 4 in a very elite pyramid to an executive team of 8 direct reports plus me and Shawn, so 10 of us, which gave us then a new perspective. The promotions of people from the business gave us a much better feel as to what was actually happening in the business. 2 other people from the outside gave us some additional outside perspective. And that's been the most helpful thing in the change agenda was removing some of the executive team where we had sort of locked in positions.
Mm-hmm.
From a board standpoint and family standpoint, there were no casualties. There was, and one of the reasons why is we did so much work. That's why the process took so long. But we did so much work in establishing the right criteria. So talking about what we wanted in the leader. Of course, you needed the technical expertise, but again, that cultural fit. Understanding that we had become too high control at the top of the organization, and that was limiting the ability for people to act. You're paying a lot of people a lot of money to do work, and when you have to have everything blessed at the highest level, it's very difficult to be agile. So we needed to replace that kind of high control environment with something that was more collaborative, transparent, and frankly, got the family more engaged in the business. So that made it really easy. So when you express that criteria that we want you as owners to have a greater point of view, we're going to establish that point of view in a unified place at a family council as a family, not as individuals contacting folks, but as one group having a point of view on the business. And people bought into that, understood it, and it made it really easy. I mean, frankly, I would have loved to have hired internally. But unfortunately, the folks that were capable culturally in the company to kind of lead as we wanted, weren't developed enough by that current administration to lead technically, and they weren't getting the development to become the successor or the leader, and there was no real clear succession plan there. And then those that were very capable and could lead the business and had done a good job kind of running the business from an operational standpoint, either lacked some of the brand refinement or the cultural refinement that they needed. I mean, you know, I'll put it bluntly. You had some very capable jerks in the business that would not have been good to lead the business. And you had some very lovely people who could have led the business as great leaders, but weren't as technically expert as we needed. So as we kind of identified that and talked about that, Steve kept popping up as a really strong fit on the technical side and on the culture side. So it worked very well.
What about the rank and file? We're talking about the executive level and family, but what about the rank and file? Were they worried that you were getting ready to go public, to sell the company?
Absolutely. Our biggest fear was, oh great, they hired the Walmart guy to come in and change us. And it couldn't have been, you know, farther from the truth. We were hiring somebody who was about to enhance our culture. I've worked in that company forever, my whole career basically, and I know what people feel in the company and what they were looking for in leadership, and I wasn't going to not deliver that to them. So it was very, it's been a wonderful transition, but initially there was a lot of pushback and maybe fear. And I will tell you that I was chairman in 2013. In 2015, I became executive chairman. And that role was purposeful. That was for us to communicate to the organization that there's going to be leadership continuity here. I'm not going to relinquish control of this company to someone you don't know. Now, over time, I imagine that my role might go back to more of a chair role and less of an executive chair role as Steve develops into the role and builds trust. He's been there 3 years and doing a fabulous job. I kind of like my role, so slow down a little bit. But that was really helpful too, to have, you know, me in my role and folks understanding that there is a kind of chain of command, if you will. We don't think of it that way, but they felt good about it.
I'd add one thing just on the rank and file too. As a legacy business that had a high control structure around it, what you find true everywhere is once we popped the top off of the culture and created an open environment, a transparent environment, everybody in the business, they know what needs to be done. They knew what needed to be fixed. So when we went into the change agenda, so many of the solutions and the ideas and then the energy to actually execute came from the rank and file. And they had been, you know, they had been pushed down and held down, but they could see these opportunities that needed to be changed. And it's been hugely rewarding for all of us that even though we've been through, you know, some tough stuff, and we did voluntary retirement and a downsizing of the organization, people fully understood why, and they knew that we were, you know, too heavy, too fat, too slow, and then we needed to make some of those adjustments. So once you empower that culture, it's amazing how much everybody rises to the occasion.
So sometimes the flow of money from a business to family members can be an issue. Can you talk about how salaries or compensation is set for family members, what your distribution policy is, and is there provision for buying out shareholders who want to redeem their stock? Three easy ones.
I have no issue with all that. I'm good with all of it.
So let's start with pay for employees, family employees. We have a fairly strict market-based pay grade system. Our employment policy is you can work and get a job at L.L.Bean, but only what you're qualified for. I wanted some more strict employment policy rules that required family members to work outside the business before coming into the business and ensuring that they had at least earned their BA or BS before coming into the business. As a family council, we kind of overruled that. Third generation was worried about their grandchildren not having a place to work, which was very interesting. But we do have merit-based policies. So you come in and you get a job that you're qualified for. We have job tracks, which if you have not met some requirements, like you haven't graduated from college yet, or you haven't had some external work experience, You can have a job, but you're not going to be put on a fast track. On the other side, if you've made a commitment to the company, we put you on a career track and we give you the resources with our human resources department and a family resource group that we have that can help you advance and develop and get you to the next level. There is nepotism in that you have a job if you want it, but there is no advancement nepotism. You have to earn your roles at L.L.Bean. And the pay is the same for all.
Pays the same market-based for the role.
Market-based, not for all family members, thank you. It's market-based. So we have family members all over the range in terms of how they're compensated. On a provision for buyback of shares, that was one of the questions. We do not have that. We do have buyback policies in place. We have a fairly steady dividend, so nobody's eager to sell their shares. And no one's in a position really financially that they're too leveraged that would require them to do that. But we do keep an eye, and this is one of the things that makes it hard. I work with our CFO pretty carefully to ensure that cash is pretty readily available. That's in the event that somebody transfers or wants to sell, and to make sure that you have cash on hand to accommodate that if need be. We have ways of paying back those things to the person who wants to sell, so it doesn't all have to hit in 1 year. We have a policy that we will pay you a third and then a third in subsequent years for getting out if you wanted to get out. But now that we're into the 5th generation, some of those larger holdings are getting smaller, and it becomes less of an issue, I think. You don't have one major shareholder who is going to possibly say, I'm out, and try to cash in, and we wouldn't be able to absorb it. So we've talked about having provisions, but I think the way we're running it right now is working. And there was another question in there, I'm not sure what it was.
It was compensation, distribution policy, and redemption of shares.
Okay, and distribution policy for dividend, is that?
Dividends, yeah.
Yep. So what we do is our dividend policy is driven by, we take a percent of our beginning book equity and say that this is going to, X percent of that will be distributed as dividend. And what we require for our targets is that X plus needs to be achieved in the business to pay that dividend policy out. And that's after incentives and bonuses and other things. That's the true income in the company. So we have to hit a certain ROE in order to pay a full dividend. And our goal is that we hit our ROE, we can pay the full dividend, and we can retain, have some retainage left in the company so that we can build that equity. It's great because it increases the dividend annually, and it also allows more capital to stay in the business for investment purposes and going forward. So it works pretty well for us. It works well.
Okay, given the time, it says 9:30, so we will wrap things up now. We have more questions than we have time. If you want to talk about family business, I think Steve and Shawn will be here for just a couple of minutes. There are lots of experts in the room with different color ribbons. You can use them as resource if you want to get questions answered. Please fill out your feedback form. You can leave it on the table, and a feedback form was emailed to you a few minutes ago. If you're in the CMA Family Business Forum at 10 o'clock, we will convene in the consulate room on the 2nd floor. And I would ask you to give a warm round of applause to Shawn and Steve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone.